Hi guys, it's Baz here, the Everyday Vegan, and today I'm vlogging, so I'm just talking at the camera, so there's not going to be an adventurous journey or me cooking or anything. And what I want to talk about to you today is skepticism. And I want to explain to you guys why I'm what I would consider a vegan skeptic. The first thing I want to talk about very briefly is what that actually means. Now, I think a lot of people out there, or some people out there, use the word skepticism to mean a naysayer, someone that goes, oh, that can't work, and that can't work, and that's all nonsense, etc. Now, the definition that I would use, and please don't take this as gospel, look up a better definition in the dictionary by all means, but what it means for me is that my initial stance to anything that I hear is that I want proof for it. And when I say proof, I don't mean anecdotal proof, as in, well, oil pulling worked for me, therefore it must work. What I mean by that is, and this goes back to my early education and the way my family treated science and maybe the social economic circumstances I come from, but for me the filter I put most things through in my life is a filter of scientific research and scientific evidence. And what I mean by that is the scientific method, as in postulating a hypothesis, I can never say that word properly, and then potentially designing an experiment and making a future prediction that could be falsified. So if we talk about anything that's non-falsifiable, intelligent design is a very good example of that. So to say, evolution teaches us that, if there were an intelligent designer behind it, certain organs shouldn't be in the place they are, or maybe we should see a lot better, or maybe there wouldn't be so much junk DNA in our DNA sequence. And what I mean by non-falsifiable is if then someone says to you, well, the designer designed it in a way so that those things are in there so that you think that there isn't a designer behind the design. So that makes it an unfalsifiable postulate. And that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the stuff that we can prove and the stuff that research exists on and the stuff that we can critically think about. So I'm a massive fan of a podcast, if you're at all interested, called The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. You can download that onto any smartphone, I'm pretty sure. And I have recently found myself thinking a lot about veganism in that regard, and about the reasons why some vegans that I know personally and some vegans that I read about online, that I hear about, and that I watch YouTube videos about or follow on Instagram, tend to subscribe to systems of belief. And I don't mean religious beliefs here, or certain diets, or certain medications, or certain supplements, or certain rituals, or certain methods of conducting themselves, or conducting their personal hygiene or medicine or anything like that, that have no scientific evidence behind them. And whilst that might be okay for them, and everybody gets to choose their own life, and that's perfectly fine, and whilst I'm not here to criticize their actions, I just want to explain that I see things very differently. And it has taken me several years, well, I want to say 7 to 8 years, with a very good friend who is a vegan, who is non-militant, he's not preachy, he doesn't subscribe to anything that I've just mentioned, he is a very rational, very compassionate, very intelligent, very well-researched vegan, and it's still taken me 7 to 8 years to finally get why I personally want to be vegan. And I guess going back to the skepticism, my stance is always to take anything that anybody says to me and put it through a certain filter of going, well, that's interesting, let me look into that a little bit further, let me do some research. So when someone, for example, tells me that the government is trying to poison us by putting fluoride into the water, I'm not going to say, man, that's complete nonsense, that's complete rubbish. What I will do is I will get my phone out and I will just Google or DuckDuckGo, whatever search engine you decide to use, and I will go fluoride in the water poisonous, or fluoride in the water government conspiracy, and I will start doing research. And I have a good friend called Dan who shares that attitude with me, and we have some really crazy discussions and really passionate discussions about the fact that people often take things that are, well, outright preposterous and take it for face value because they hear it from somebody that they trust, or from somebody that they assume has done the necessary research. And because I am on YouTube, and because there are a lot of people on YouTube that have massively more followers than I do, I think we have a certain responsibility to our viewers and to our community as vegans, and to our community on YouTube, to just do our freaking homework. So if we stand there and we say, this is the right diet for you and this will definitely work for you, that needs to be backed up with something, and that something should be empirical evidence, and it should be more than one medical study, and it should be something that is peer-reviewed, something that the scientific community has given its stamp of approval. And I saw some videos recently titled, well, what has science ever done for you? And if you ask that question, then like, seriously, just do. I can't even put it into words how preposterous I find that question. I mean, do you use a smartphone? I mean, have you got television at home? I mean, do you have a dishwasher? Do you eat vegan soya-based products? I mean, how else would any of that exist if we didn't have science? So channels like that, and channels that claim to have a one-size-fit-all cure for people that are out there. So either saying you must go 80-10-10 because that's the right vegan diet, or things that say, well, if only you did a little bit of meditation every day, your life would be so much better. Or, I mean, even a lot of vegan channels, if you say no one on a meat-based diet can possibly live a healthy lifestyle, and you know, if you are feeding your kids anything but a vegan diet, you are ruining their future. If you make claims like that, guys, come on, like a little bit of research, a little bit of science-based evidence would just be nice. At least it would get my attention. And I'm by no means condemning anybody who has beliefs beyond science. I think that's fair enough. The only thing that I would say, if those beliefs could potentially be harmful to others, please do your freaking research, and please be careful with your viewership, and please be careful with the advice that you give, because if it can be harmful, if there's even the slightest chance of it damaging somebody's health, or, you know, giving people beliefs like the non-vaccination movement, like, please just keep your mouth shut if you don't know what you're talking about. And everybody who's viewing those videos out there, please take 2 minutes to go, hang on a second, is that right? I'm just gonna get a second opinion. That's all I'm suggesting. Please just go and get a second opinion. I mean, even medical science, which is one of the most researched science in the world, the most empirical studies go into that, the most money is spent, some of the biggest research grants and some of the most money that governments spend on scientific programs go into medical research. Even everyday life tells you, well, if some practitioner's opinion sounds a little bit wrong, is go and get a second opinion. And that's basically all I'm trying to say when I say that I'm a vegan skeptic. So when it comes to claims that soya products are unhealthy, which has been claimed a lot, you know, I just look into that. And when somebody says to me, well, meat causes cancer, I look into that, and if it turns out to be true, fantastic, and a win for the vegan community. Or if someone says palm oil kills orangutans in Borneo, then I look into that and I see, well, is that actually true, or are there sustainable sources, etc. So just to wrap this up, because I've been talking for far too long on this video already, what I'm trying to say is, please, 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 guys, if anybody makes a claim to have the one-size solution that fits everybody, and they suddenly have unlocked the secret vegan diet that will cure all of your diseases, and if somebody says that because they're suddenly using crystals, or whatever it may be, you know, insert any claim that anybody made it be right or wrong, all I'm asking is, before you make up your mind, before you believe anybody, or before you dismiss anybody's opinion, please just get a second opinion. Please just do a little bit of research. And in the world of Google and the world of online research, this isn't a big ask. I'm not asking you to read scientific journals or, you know, get involved in the peer review process. But please, please, please be skeptical about almost anything that you hear. And there was I think the reason that made me think about this is, I just remembered actually as I'm doing this video, there was a really funny meme on the internet that said something along the lines of that the only time when people critically think about a news story on any major news network is the 1st of April, because it's April Fool's Day and they thought they might be fooled. Whereas, of course, we should question every news story that is out there. And by that, I don't mean every news story that's out there is wrong and there's a big conspiracy trying to catch us all out. All I'm saying is that there's always two sides to the story, and we should try and make an effort to look at both sides. I've rambled on far longer than I expected to do, but all of those things have been playing on my mind, and I want you guys to tell me what you think about that. What do you think of the skeptical approach to veganism? What do you think about the skeptical approach to life? It's working quite well for me so far. I mean, 3 years into veganism, I'm still alive. I haven't subscribed to any of the major vegan diets of 80-10-10 or high carb, low fat, any of that, and it seems to be working okay for me. No, of course, I'm making a claim for anecdotal evidence, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that a lot of the decisions that I have made or have not made are based on a lot of research. And if you take anything from this video, then all I'm telling you is, don't take anybody's opinion on pure faith unless they're either an expert in their field and they have been peer reviewed, or you have at least gotten a second opinion, or at least you've done a little bit of research around your field and maybe chatted to a few of your friends. That's what we do in the Norwich vegan community here. If somebody makes a claim, and we had some interesting people around Norwich that make some preposterous claims, not just around veganism but around other things, and I guess that played into me talking about this as well. And I guess when I hear claims like that, my alarm bells just go off and I go, hang on a second, you know, let's actually look at the evidence that we have here. And of course, I'm sure there are some people out there that believe that the entire scientific community is just out to get us all and that it's a big conspiracy. But before we get into any of that, because we could be here for days, I'm gonna stop this video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you like videos like that where I just ramble on. Please give me a feedback, let me know. Please tell me your opinions, tell me your stories, see if skepticism has worked for you in the past. Tell me if I'm wrong. You know, I'm open to other opinions. Or if you don't believe in the scientific method, also tell me. We can have a chat about that. I would find that very, very interesting. Guys, that's it. I'm gonna stop and probably have to edit this video. And love you all, be kind, be vegan, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.